Hi, very good morning to you. It's Gene at the maverickstar Observatory. In this video I want to talk about two specific things that are related, and we can use the analogy of the weight that is on the camel's back already and the weight which will break the camel's back. And we're going to get into the muons, the cosmic rays, why we are watching the muons and not the cosmic rays so much, and a little bit more to do with the topic of the pole shift, because in short it is the pole shift that eventually breaks the camel's back. But like I was saying in the video I did yesterday, on the back of that, there is already weight there which is not far off breaking the camel's back. So before I begin, I want to say a big thank you to Susan from San Francisco. And I just want to say, if you're listening, it's a pity I didn't draw down a little bit more on that article, because that number that we have a lot in common with, it was actually the temperature recorded in Fahrenheit that was that special number. I should have really just pulled down the article a little bit more, and I know you would have saw that. And then there's that little connection again that some people just pass off as just merely a coincidence. But there you go. Big thanks to Doug and our patrons. Okay, so let's talk about the weight that is not quite breaking the camel's back. And guys, if you do not see the same things in our society around our world today, then a lot of people are either purposely putting blinkers on or putting their head in the sand and deliberately not wanting to see it or address it. I'm talking about this because in science, usually things are not just by coincidence, they are by the very fact that they happen, a fact. If you look at Occam's razor, that which tends to be simplest tends to be true. It might be a little bit inaccurate in that Occam's razor statement, but I think you get what I'm talking about. What am I talking about then with the problem that we are facing now and the weight which is the camel's back? Okay. Have you not seen a deterioration in the ability for people to perform as good human beings in the recent years? And are you aware of what is causing this? There is something at work which is destroying the fabric of our community, and that one of those things is the TV that we have in our living room and the things that we absorb when we watch that TV. I'm talking about the programs and the adverts that promote gambling, drinking, drug taking. They make it look glamorous to do these things. I'm talking about the soap series and the programs and the films that we watch, showing adultery as being fashionable and trendy. You've got men sleeping with men. A film just off the top of my head, Heartback Bridge, about two gay guys, if I'm correct. But the problem is that all these things do not contribute to a good community. They bring it down. If you've got alcoholics in your community, trust me, they will bring it down. If you've got drug addicts in your community and they can't get the money for those drugs, they will start stealing in your community in order to obtain them, because they have a very, very addictive addiction, which makes them do pretty much whatever they have to. And if it comes down to injury or killing somebody for them to do it, that is the level of extent of their addiction, and that is what they do. It's the same if you've got gamblers in your community. They spend all their wages, or if they're on benefits, they spend all the benefits on that addiction. These things are being promoted and allowed by our governments. Now, I don't want to live in a nanny state, but what I do want is some form of control over this, because I am, logic enough to know that adultery destroys marriages, alcohol destroys lives, drugs destroy lives, etc., etc., and this does not amount to a good society. If you go on YouTube, you've got a lot of people that are recognising what's going on. We've got a proper pandemic now spreading across the world. First, the government's actions was to contain it, lock everybody up, and then, shut everything down. They realised this was damaging the economy. Now, instead of protecting life so much, they are protecting the economy. That just shows you the inability for any government to think logically. You know, the first thing that they should do is clear up this problem, and I don't mean by continuously locking us up in our homes so that we are bombarded by more of this poison on our TVs. You know, there are other ways of doing this. They've not addressed the fact that you cannot stop social distancing. You know, so what you have to do is come up with a method to you know, enable people to work closely together and safely. But I haven't seen in our government over here in the UK suggest anything along those lines. And other than a mask and a visor and some poor personal protection equipment, you know, I've not seen them do anything other than that. And in a lot of cases, they've just completely ignored, you know, certain sectors, and that is why a lot more people have died. We can't continue like this, because if we do, we have examples in our historical books, and some of those books have lasted the test of time, and I'm talking about the religical or the religion textbooks. What you'll see in most of them across all religions is at certain points in time there has been great catastrophes, and before those great catastrophes, let me get my words out, before the great catastrophes that took place, there was certain human behaviour. Before Noah's flood, I'm talking, there was certain human behaviour. You know, if you don't know what the human behaviour was before that, I will just briefly tell you, but you can go and verify that simply online on an online King James Bible or another biblical text. Have a look at what the behaviour was. Corruption, wickedness, you know, adultery, all those things that, you know, that was given us in just 10 rules to abide by. You know what those are, the commandments. And, you know, everyone would be living in a lot better world. Or even if they tried to keep those 10 commandments, it would be a better world. But before these events took place, the great floods, the destruction of the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and what is promised in Revelations, you will see the same trend. By no coincidence, we are seeing the same behaviour of what took place before those disasters, and that is the very weight on the camel's back which is building up right now. And I'll tell you now, the end result will be breaking of the back with the magnetic pole shift. With that, guys, I'm going to now talk about why we are examining the levels of muons and not cosmic rays on our planet. Before I do that, I'll just tell you that the count rate 30 minutes ago was at 458.2 per square metre per hour. It's a little bit lower than what it has been. In fact, you know, it is the lowest I've seen so far. And I thought, you know, I was seeing a lot more flashes when I've popped past the detector, but this time we've seen a little bit less. But that doesn't mean nothing, because we know that the magnetic pole is still migrating. And we know that there is a possibility that this won't be an excursion because of the delayed event. It could also mean that we lose the magnetosphere completely. Or it could mean that it will go through a completed reversal and hold at its reversed poles permanently, as we've seen it do before 780,000 years, regularly at 350,000 years intervals. So what happens is, as we get closer and closer, probably around about the 40-degree mark, which I show you on Google Earth a lot, we will begin to see at that point changes in the magnetosphere strength and changes in the pattern of the migration of the magnetic North Pole and possibly the South Pole. And it is at that point where we will get more muons. The reason why we're focusing on muons is because if you look at this image now, that you've been looking at for, you know, a few minutes now, you will see that it starts with one strike and then goes into a shower pocket. And then you get lots of these shower pockets across the surface of the Earth. Part of the particles in that shower are muons. And if we are detecting more muons, we know that there is more cosmic ray strikes. If there is more cosmic ray strikes in the upper atmosphere with air molecules and other air molecules, that is an indication that there is a weakening further of our magnetosphere. I'm going to just change the image here now because I want to show you something else which is contributing to this problem and making it worse. And as you guys know, the more showers we have, the more risks we have, and not just by ourselves, human beings, by all the biodiversities across the range on this planet. That is from vegetation, life, trees, bushes, grasses, plants, that sort of thing, to insects across the range, to animals across the range. It affects all the biodiversity on a planet. If you look at Mars, we haven't found life on it yet. Maybe at one point there was. Maybe before it lost its magnetosphere, there was life on there. What we do know is by studying the terraform on Mars that there was rivers on there that were flowing, and they have left on the terraform those little veiny canals where the water was run, and it would have took thousands of years to erode riverbeds like that so that we could see them visibly from passing spacecraft. We know that there was water on the surface, and we know that there was very likely, as a result, water in the atmosphere. But when the atmosphere lost its protective shield, the magnetosphere, it was then subject to be stripped away through a term known as sputtering, and it lost its atmosphere first, and then in turn the water and other things that was on that planet. So this is a serious event, a very, very, very serious anomaly that we are taking place in right now, happening in our lifetimes. It's been happening for the last 100 years, and we know that the course is set for a reversal at some point in the near future. We know through studying all these things that, you know, it's not just the reversal, it's not just your compass needle that flicks over from north to south and that's it, you know, Bob's your uncle. There's something else that's taking place. You know, we are going to be intercepted by more cosmic radiation. Now, I'm going to go to that chart I was saying about earlier, because I want to just bring out something else here important. Now, this chart, what we're looking at, and the most important thing first off is this bit here at solar cycle 24 at 2014 the year, and I'll explain why. But before I do that, this is the weight that is now on the camel's back, and I've showed you this form, this chart many times, this graph of many things obviously in there, you can see that, but the ones we're interested in is the first three on the top. First one's the solar cycle, second one's the sunspots, third one is the cosmic rays. I'll explain, because I really want you to understand the science, and I want you to understand why we keep going back to this 2014. And yes, I know guys, it's 6 years old, but the information that is the important part that we're looking for is on here. And it wouldn't matter if we was looking at a 2021 now, because all we would be looking at is these intervals in between the solar cycles during the minimum. Trust me, right now, the amount of cosmic rays that we've got is much, much more than what we received at the end of solar cycle 23 during the minimum in between solar cycle 23 and 24. This region here, we are receiving more than that now. And why do I know that? It's because if you go back to 22 and 23, the solar cycle minimum, you can see there's less. And if we go back to before 22, in between 21, you can see that there's less, even more so. So as the minimums are going on, you know, and the solar cycles are weakening, we are getting more cosmic rays in. And you can see that after solar cycle 23, it has doubled every time there is a solar cycle took place. So what you're looking at now is this peak of cosmic rays. If we could see the space environment overview right now, I guarantee you it would be double what we're looking at now between 23 and 24. But why is it so important that I keep showing you this graph? If we look at solar cycle 24 during the maximum of the cycle in 2014, which we clearly see here, we can see that at this point the sun failed during a maximum to push away any cosmic rays. You can see clearly on this chart. So that is why this chart is so important, because it shows us what's happened during solar cycle 24, and it shows us something that we've not witnessed before. That's how important this chart is, and that's the science I'm trying to show you guys, and I don't mind showing you this chart many times until you get to understand what it is I'm trying to show you and explain the level of the importance of it. No organisation on this planet, as far as I am aware, has came out and delivered this facts and information to you guys. And it is important because, like I said earlier on, more cosmic rays makes a real problem for any biodiversity on this planet. And if it's on the increase, then we're in big trouble. And this is only the weight on the camel's back that hasn't quite broke it yet. This isn't the weight, guys. The magnetic pole shift will be the last link in the chain that breaks for us if we do not sort our acts out. And this can be avoided. A lot of the implications, what we're going to face later, can be avoided. But right now, the governments around the world are simply doing zero. If I had the money at this research observatory that specifically monitors now muons, which we know now is a result of cosmic interactions in our upper atmosphere, I have some ideas to protect people, even if the magnetosphere collapses and the solar cycles continue to allow more more cosmic rays in. I do have some ideas, but we just don't simply have the budget. Some days, guys, we barely make £100 here at the observatory, and I mean at rare occasions we do that. Some days it's a couple of pounds. I can only do so much, guys, and over the time at this observatory I have found ways to overcome certain things, but I am at a limit with the funding I've got, and we've got 30,000 subscribers. We could change this in an instant. We could even employ people here at this observatory to expand on this. And tell me something. Is this not important enough to do that? We are living in very strange times, guys. A lot of this information, like I say, doesn't come out of the organisations that are aware of it. Obviously, whoever put this Space Environment Overview 2014 together should have been aware of the fact that during solar cycle 24 at its maximum, the sun failed to push out the cosmic rays and protect the solar system that we're in. You see, because what happens is when we get a lack of solar activity with regard to sunspots, we get a lot less solar radiation and a lot less sunspots forming, and the heliosphere begins to shrink in on the solar system. On top of that, we got the straw that will break the camel's back in possibly only a few years, the pole shift. And people may wonder, why I was talking about at the beginning of this video human behaviour. Because if you read the book, the Bible, and I'm saying this could, I don't think it's a coincidence, and I'm a scientist. People say to me, Gene, stop mixing science with religion, but I don't think this is a coincidence. I think this is the alignment of, using an Earth to wipe out human existence on this planet as a result of the behaviour, and if at the very least, almost wipe out the continuity of humans on the planet, leaving very few to start again, as we've seen recorded in that history of the biblical text. There are events that have been recorded which are proven, guys. So I've gone on way too long, but I hope you understand the science. I hope you understand what it is we do. We track the magnetic pole, we track the magnetosphere strength, and we track now muons, which tell us that there are interactions in our upper atmosphere at this observatory, and we bring you data like this and the facts and everything you need to see that your world is changing right before your eyes. And although sometimes you're more concerned about putting brown sauce on your bacon sandwich, or you've got to pay a certain bill, or you need to watch a certain film with a glass of wine later on, these things are still ticking over in the background. And, you know, if nobody does any effort to make some form of protection for us, there will be no protection. You know, the event is on the horizon. It's proven it's coming. The train is on the track. You can see it coming. Just asking you guys for a little bit more support than what we're getting, and we can achieve a lot more than what we're doing right now, because people need to be aware of this. Guys, you have an excellent day, as best you can, but don't take this for granted. As always, there is a link down there, guys. Before I say as always, there is a link down there. Please support us. We need more patrons. We need more support on PayPal, and we can deliver more as a result to you guys. It's worth it, guys. There's a lot worse things in life you can do than support a public observatory which is following the biggest event of our time. Trust me on that. Okay, as always, have a great day. Bye for now.